I am a successful sinner. As I reflect on my own life and my own attempt at following Jesus, it becomes constantly obvious how much of a sinner I truly am. And I jokingly tell you, it's still true, that of course gluttony is my favorite sin. But it is not my only sin. I won't offer a public confession, but something I realized in my own life is that there is this constant mystery, there is this struggle with sin, and I am comforted just slightly as one who listens to confessions, because I realize that in the sense that I'm struggling with 2 or 3 sins that I personally can't exactly get over, likewise I hear from those who come to confession the exact same struggle. It seems as if it's something built into our human nature that all of us are stuck with that 2, maybe 3 sins that just plague us over and over, and no matter our greatest efforts, we are stuck. There's a repetition to the mystery of our own brokenness. It seems to be built into our human nature. We're not alone. St. Paul talked about this too. He said he had a thorn in the flesh to torment him, and an angel of Satan to beat him. And so, if St. Paul wrestles with that, well, we're in good company. And certainly, we can see very clearly that my favorite saint, Simon Peter, St. Peter, he had this struggle too. In all of the Gospels, we see Jesus over and over being a man of uncompromising mercy, constantly scandalizing, upsetting, and shocking people with how gracious and abundant his mercy is. Whether it was a couple weeks ago, we heard the story of the woman caught in adultery and people wanted to stone her, and Jesus opposes them and forgives her, or whether it's the woman at the well who'd been married 5 times and now she's living with a guy who's not even her husband. He showed her great mercy. Or whether it's the fact that he partied with all the wrong kind of people, including tax collectors, sinners, and prostitutes. Jesus was consistently a friend to sinners. The successful nature of our sin does not seem to bother him. But today, this mystery of our sin is revealed in a way that I think is definitely worth reflecting on, because there is no passage in all of the Gospels where Jesus engages in the work of reconciliation more thoroughly than in John chapter 21. This is just about the very end of the Gospel of John. You may remember the story of Simon Peter's life. 3 years before this, he spent a similar night fishing on the Sea of Galilee and caught nothing. I imagine that night after Jesus' resurrection, Peter would have been remembering that night 3 years before, and the experience and the memories would have been coming back. And then, just like 3 years prior, the voice of Jesus said, "No, cast the net over the right side and you will catch a large number of fish." And how excited Simon Peter would have been again now that Jesus was risen from the dead. But at the same time, remember how burdened he would have been by the fact that only a few days before, he had publicly betrayed Jesus and ran away after he pledged that he would be willing to die with Jesus. Simon Peter said, "Lord, I will go to the cross with you." And only a few hours later, he chickened out. Imagine the emotion as Simon Peter heard Jesus' words, "Throw the net over this side." And imagine the joy and the guilt and the shame and anxiety of the thought of, here, he's finally come back for me. He's given me another catch of fish. He's embraced me after this long night of darkness, this long night of doubt, this long night of guilt and shame and fear and anxiety. He's come back for me. And can you imagine, the moment he realizes it's Jesus, he jumps in the sea. I love this part. He jumps in the sea. Do you know why? I'm convinced it's not because he's being ridiculous or absurd. It's because he remembered that day long ago on the Sea of Galilee. The same sea, probably the same boat. And Jesus walked on water. And Jesus said, Simon Peter, come to me. You remember that scene? He got out of the boat and he walked on water towards his beloved Lord, his good, dear friend. He was able to walk on water. I think in that moment, Simon Peter thought he could do it again. He didn't jump out of the boat to go swimming, and he certainly didn't jump out of the boat to go to somehow get closer to the shore. The boat was really near the shore. I think he thought he was going to walk on water. In fact, this time, run on water to go embrace the Lord. I would have loved to see his face when he realized that miracle wasn't going to happen in that moment, and he'd probably start fluttering and floundering about. Remember what Jesus was doing, cooking breakfast on a charcoal fire. Can you imagine the guilt and the shame in Simon Peter's heart when he sees burning charcoal, because it was a similar charcoal fire, the Gospels say, that Simon Peter was warming himself next to when all those people kept asking him, aren't you one of Jesus' followers, the night before Jesus died? And Simon Peter, warming himself by a charcoal fire, denied Jesus 3 times. Can you imagine how triggered he was, how emotionally devastated he was in seeing yet another charcoal fire? And then the anxiety and the tension as they ate and as Jesus cooked them breakfast, wondering, what is he going to say? How are we going to deal with this? What's going to happen? And he probably was shaking with nerves and fear. And Jesus asks him a question. He breaks the ice. He acknowledges the tension in that space. Simon, do you love me? And he has the chance. Simon Peter has the chance 3 times, even though the questions wound him. Can you imagine how much Jesus had been wounded by the denial? Now, 3 times, Jesus gives Simon Peter the opportunity to reconcile, to take back, to reassert, yes, Lord, I do love you. That was a mistake. I was afraid. I was weak. I was broken. I did not mean that. I wish I was stronger. I wish I had greater virtue. I wish I was holier. But now, yes, I love you. And so for us, I am convinced this is the power of Christ's mercy at work in our life. He calls us not just simply to an absolution of you are forgiven and now go your way, but no, a deeper reconciliation so that it is in the very horror and brokenness of our sin. It's through that we're reconciled to Christ. Jesus doesn't ignore our struggle with sin. He blesses it and uses it for our conversion. And through our brokenness, and I say this as a remarkable sinner myself, through our brokenness, he reveals to us the power of his grace to transform our lives and draw us closer to him. He's not afraid of what we've done. He's not afraid of our weakness. He's not afraid. He's not delicate or dainty. He doesn't get offended because he knows how weak we truly are. Rather, in our struggle, he longs to transform our sin with his love. And then, here's the amazing part. Here's the whole point of my life. If I can stand before you as a witness, as a successful sinner, here it is. It's through my sin been given a call to do something. Simon Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Okay, good. Do something with it. Let your sin be transformed into mission. Let the mercy that's transformed your life turn into a life of mercy given away to others. Because that's the power of Jesus' redemption. It's not just the absolution of sin, rather it's the transformation of sin. It's the incredible power of God who could take the greatest evil, the cross, and turn it into the greatest good, our salvation. So likewise in your life, Christ desires to take your weakness, your brokenness, your guilt, sorrow, and shame, and all those wounds that you try so hard to hide. He desires to transform that with his gentle, tender love and mercy. And then by so doing that, he wants you to go out and share that with others. Simon Peter, fill in your name. Do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. I know I'm weak. I know I'm broken. I know I'm not holy enough.